Hey guys, it's Casual Friday. That means it's Medium Nancy Matz Friday, and today's topic is, why did your soul choose your life? We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Happy Friday, everybody. Good evening. How's everybody doing? I heard that. Be nice. Everybody be nice. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California, which, by the way, is really sunny again at 103. Our team, I lost track. See? It's been a long day. Our team is 45 strong up and down the state, and that means we can get to you, but it might take us a couple days. California is like this huge state, and we got a little bit of everything, oceans, you name it, just like in the Beach Boys songs. Okay, got surfers, the second wave. But it might take us a couple days to get to you because the state is so large. In that case, we do have mediums on staff like Nancy Matz, who's in the green room, who can call you and talk to you about what may or may not be going on in your place. And if it is paranormal, they can calm the energy down until we can get out there. Real simple. Try to find us. We're all over social media. Just hit Dr. Google up and just type in California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team. Boom, we'll slam right up. Okay, if you're watching from Facebook, and a lot of you are, and you haven't done so already, and you like what you hear and see tonight, please feel free to hit that follow button. We're always looking to expand our horizons and get a lot of followers, and that's the whole key, isn't it? Especially if we have events and all that good stuff. Yeah. Also, show us some love. Show us some thumbs up and show us some happy faces and all that good stuff. Those heart things that I can never do that remind me of the Vulcan, greeting, right? I can never do that stuff. But, show us some love tonight. Show us some love. Also, participate in the chat room, because that helps a lot, too. Because what that does is that puts us up higher in the FYP, meaning the Facebook computers, and, well, not only Facebook, but Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and all those other places. They see that, and it sets off a trigger, and they put us into what they call the For You page. And like on Facebook, that's easy to find because you scroll down Facebook, you get your reels, right, and then below that is the stuff where they suggest people that you might want to listen to or pages that you might want to go to. That would be the For You page, okay? And it works the same way over at YouTube and Twitch and all the other places too. Okay, so just be aware of that. So that's when you participate with what we're doing. If you're over on YouTube tonight, and I know you're over there too, please feel free if you like it. If you like the show, I'm not going to hold a gun to your head. If you like the show, please feel free to subscribe. You can tell we're building up. We're getting closer, ever closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Exciting. And it's only, just subscribe. We're always looking for subscribers and all that. And if you look over there, there's more than 1,000 videos sitting there, and that's because we've been doing this for 5 years. This is number 6 of season 5. This is what tonight is, number 6. And we've been around for a while. And not only that, if you go over to Blog Talk Radio, there's another 10 years of videos sitting over there. Lots of shows I've done. Lots of shows Nancy and I've done. I mean, you can go back, see Nancy and I go back forever. Nancy and I go back to before they had electricity. Yeah, I'm telling you. Candlelight. That's why we had to be on Blog Talk Radio. It had to be candlelight. Because there was no light, right? Blog Talk Radio. Anyway, I'm in one of those moods today. Anyway, it must have been the non-alcoholic pina colada I had before the show. But anyway, yeah, so check that out. There's a lot of shows over there, and I think you'll like what you find. I mean, it's not all paranormal, because I'm a journalist. I'm a photojournalist, so I don't always do paranormal, right? I shift off the subject sometimes. So there's stuff a little bit of everything for everybody, okay? And also, like I said, subscribe, share tonight. If you like what you hear tonight and see, please share it amongst your friends and everything else, because, like I said, we're always trying to get the word out. That's why we always do that. Share with 5 people, blah, 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 at the very end. Okay, I'm done spieling. Now I have announcements. For those of you on YouTube, my store is open. The California Haunts store is open for business. I have a link at the bottom of the show description. So you can Google down there, check the link out. We've got Halloween stuff. We've got California Haunt stuff. We've got California Haunts radio stuff over there. Go on over there and check it out. Become part of our Booo Crew, and that's Boo with 3 O's. And also our Patreon's there. Our Patreon's available. We got a lot going on Patreon, and right now for the members of Patreon that we have, I did 2 pre-recorded videos today. This is my 3rd show today. My 3rd show. I did 2 pre-recorded videos today. One of them is up at Patreon waiting for you. And that happens when we do a pre-recorded show 2 weeks in advance. You guys get to see it. The people on Patreon get to see it before anybody else does. So that's one of the perks over at Patreon. But you need to go over there and check out the rest of our perks. Okay? Just check it out. Check it out. All right? But yeah, do check out our Booo Crew store. The link is at the bottom. And I'm going to be adding products on there regularly for you guys to peruse. And in fact, I just had a meeting with one of my producers about certain items that she thinks should be on there. And so I'm going to have to go check that out and try and figure all that stuff out. Today was one of those days. And this is, Forrest Gump said it best. The day was fine itself. Everything went smooth until I hit this afternoon thing. I hate dealing with insurance companies and medical and all that. Sometimes, like Forrest Gump says, sometimes there's just not enough rocks. That's all I'm going to say. All right, tonight, Nancy's going to be with us to talk about how your soul chose you. And I was telling her the other day, when she initially sent me the email to tell me what she wanted to do on the air today, I said, well, I know how mine chose me. And oh, there goes the bing, there goes the question mark. Remember a long time ago, if you guys have been following the show, we were talking about, we had someone on to talk about guardian angels. And I remember telling her that I felt that my guardian angels were alcoholics, that maybe I had driven them to be alcoholics or whatever. Well, I can honestly say, whoever, my soul, when it was choosing me, I think it was at a big party. It was at this big party, and it had one too many, and then it chose what it wanted me to do in my life. No other explanation for this. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that. Let me bring Nancy in, and we can get the show on the road, and should be an interesting ride. Let's do it. There we go.
I don't know about the alcoholic. I don't even know. Did your folks drink at all?
No.
Are you kidding me? I think you chose this life for the challenge because you didn't get what you wanted last time.
What could I possibly have been thinking? What could the soul possibly have been thinking? Challenge is one thing, not having enough rocks is another. Let's just put it that way.
I can only say that I haven't talked to too many people who haven't had a challenging life. And I have clients who, by the grace of choosing their parents carefully, more carefully, maybe not carefully with an idea what they wanted, they come in with a lot of prosperity, but their lives are no happier than yours or mine.
Yeah.
In fact, even more challenging because the stress of life has been taken away. So they don't have the everyday life that we have. So they focus on the things that are outside of taking care of their life. And sometimes it's very difficult to get past the wounds that show up every once. It's different degrees of wounds. I find it curious. Of all the clients I've had, the people who are starting their life out or have a business goal, couples who start businesses, those who are going to have a great adventure, move somewhere else, those who have challenges and plan together for an outcome of their desire, even if it's 30 years for a retirement. Those people are the happiest because they see the future. They can feel the future going to happen if they work hard at it. And far more middle America will fight for that than not. I'm not even positive that people who inherit businesses, like they call 3 and 4 generational businesses, unless, and I'm only speaking of businesses that you inherit. I'm not thinking of farmers only. But if you can evolve your business, those people are happy also because they can have a greater degree of influence on populace around them. Farmers know they feed well. Shoemakers, they do something special. The gal that I think it's Spanx, she developed that and sold it for she's like a billionaire. I think it's the same girl. She was just on TV. She developed a new shoe for women who like high heels but want to wear tennis shoes. And so she combined them, and she was just radiantly excited about this. And Gail King put the shoe on, and she just loved it. Pricey, I can't go $400 to $600, 800 for a pair of shoes. But
Right.
it was the idea. She says, well, they're very pricey to begin with, and once we get them going, then everybody can have this shoe. And she was excited about life, and here she
Hmm.
has all this money. But we have to continue to reinvent ourselves, and I call it gearing up. So
Right.
in my 33 years of doing this, I've geared up 3, 4 times, not only
Yeah.
to make it interesting, but to do it differently. My first website was 95 or 96. And in
Hmm.
those years, there's some people listening not even that old. And I used a program called WordStar. When I
Yeah.
was staff at the engineering company, Engineering Pacific Bell, our DOS was made out of, before DOS, they had WordStar. We just
Right.
created a pattern, and I worked that, and then I got into DOS, and then I got out of it. They promoted me
Yeah, you remember
supervisor.
the old days with computers too. What people don't realize is the old days, the old. There was no Microsoft at that point, and there was Radio Shack, and the DOS computers,
Radio Shack.
and
What's that?
yeah, Radio Shack had computers out, and
Oh, you mean the little tiny ones?
the Tandy ones,
I can't.
and
I do.
they came with an instruction booklet. If you can believe that, a computer coming with an instruction. See, these young kids can't visualize that these things came with instruction
No.
booklets. And in order to get any software done, just not even to run your printer, because they're always a little dot matrix printer, a little tiny thing, you had to
Yeah.
type in all that wording, all that HTML to get everything to work. Then you go through all that work, and if you make one mistake, boom, it won't work. So then you have to go back,
Well, I
erase it
guess we
all.
can go to our show tonight because that clearly evolving.
Yeah, that's evolving.
If I
What
remember
I was
right,
going to say,
Shar kicked us life.
yeah, what I was going to say
What?
is my last post on Facebook sums up my afternoon. And being on the phone, with medical insurance and all this stuff, at the very, you get those messages where you have to like scream into the phone and go, no, medical insurance, because the damn thing doesn't listen. At the very end of the message, because this was like my third time around, to get through that system. Very end of the message, it always says, if you're having a mental issue, please push this button or call this number. I was sitting there on the phone and I'm like, you know,
You wanted to push the button.
I was that close.
I mean, you just be routed over to the 5150 group.
Yeah, over the 5150s. But I was so close because I was sitting here laughing. The dog thought I lost my mind because I started laughing because I'm like, I'm so close right now to just pushing the button. But yeah. All right, let's talk about souls. I'm all about souls.
I do feel like, Shar, you came into this life to see if you could do it. And you were a man, a rancher last time, and you had it
Yes.
easy, but you didn't hit the public. Like you're
Yeah.
a rancher, and your scope and your world in the 1800s, whatever this was, it could have been up to 1930s for all I know. You didn't get beyond the ranch, and you felt like you should have accomplished more. Well, the challenge for you is to do more. And I think I told you this maybe 3, 4 years ago. Was 2 years, 3 years that we did the past life regression?
Hmm.
I can't even remember. Was that on when when I came on? Was that the voice in the background? Was that,
Yes.
yeah, something,
Yes.
something. Uh, this was a really long day of typing. I had started this 3 days ago, 3 days ago, Tuesday, 3 days ago, and it may be long. Next week, we've already planned what we're going to talk about. So if I don't finish, but I'm going to try because there's so much information. This is a big topic, and you wouldn't think so. So in the course of this, if you have to listen to it later, maybe you'll write a few things down, maybe. I had a lot of interest in past life regression. I didn't have any interest or try to figure out why we chose a life. I just thought it was arbitrary. And of course, then the clientele of mine kind of bring it around and yes, yes, yes. And two of them were little ladies, 17 years old. One was a ballerina in Russia, and she might have died at the age of 50, 55, or 60, the last dance for the emperor. And this
Wow.
lifetime, the little girl, she didn't tell me any of this until after we'd done. And I said, oh my God, you were Valerie. And I gave her all this description so she could find her. And so if you're
Mhm.
listening, do get back to me, young lady. I think both of these ladies were 2011 and 12, I think. And of course, 2012, I lost some of the shows.
Mhm.
My tech guy says, don't you remember your computer broke? I went, no, I don't remember. Um, each of us live like a flicker on a candle. And you think, my life if you're 20 years old, you're looking at 50, 60 years of life. Now that
Mhm.
I'm in mid 70s, that flicker is flickering out faster and faster. And I thought, and there's a couple quotes later on in this. It says, each of our lives is a fleeting moment in the greater expanse of the cosmos. When you're traveling the cosmos, you can't even see Earth, let alone
Mhm.
5 or 6 billion people down here. And we average, well, there's been a lot of young people dying lately, and it's very distressing from all
Mhm.
kinds of conditions. But 70 years old, really?
Mhm.
And at the end of life, how many people have you heard say, I wish I'd spent more time with family. I wish I'd pursued my career. Well, that's what we're talking about. At the end of life, how you reflect back on your life and take away what was valuable to you. Friends, family, all that is matters, is love and connecting. But yet, were you satisfied with the career choices? When dissatisfied, were you brave enough to create a new path? I tried it. I did. I'll talk about it. Did you love your family with all their faults? Everybody who has family knows what I'm talking about. Did you recognize them from past lives? And did this fulfill your pre-life agreement with them and a career path and so on and so forth? Years and years ago, I think it was 1991, my mother introduced me to Edgar Casey study group, Madison and Sunrise in Citrus Heights, California. And I was really intrigued. I'd never heard of him. He was called a sleeping prophet. He died around 1945. And
Mhm.
his teachings and readings, I read all his books, 9 of them. His sons, 2 sons, both of them wrote. And off and on, I'd get hold of one of those and I'd read it because I was fascinated by a fellow that could go to sleep and talk in his sleep. How many of us would do that? Put his head on a pillow, but it did actually kill him. And those of us who do this for a living, Shart and I maybe a couple months back talked about the psychics we've known that have died unexpectedly. And we have to
Mhm.
protect ourselves. We have to take care of our energy. Um, I was a preemie. My parents were Christian Scientists. And until he died when I was 6 and a half, I didn't have my tonsils out until I was 7. And I don't know if that built up to a place where in my life I've not had the best luck. Everybody says, oh, you look so healthy. I've been an athlete. Yet things happen to all of us,
Right.
particularly those who use their energy. So uh, Edgar Casey believed that we travel through time, relative term, right? And that he believed we travel with a cluster of people. So I want you to visualize time as a redwood tree. And as you're traveling it, little sprigs come out and then big branches. Well, on those
Mhm.
branches, the leaves are other branches coming out, little spigots of tree. And so we sometimes will travel with a small, medium, large, we don't know, but he said 15 to 20 people, leaves on a cluster, and we would all take turns. You're the husband last time, this time you're the wife. We want that culture, we want that culture. We want, and all that diversity, to think that maybe in one lifetime I had an alternate life, perhaps.
Mhm.
Well, I don't remember. Thank you very much. All the lives I remember really um, a lower end, not destitute, but working hard at. Maybe that's my sole agreement. Maybe I like working for
Mhm.
my rewards. Okay, but we all take turns, evidently, and
Mhm.
that means those who get killed in wars, those who are born with disabilities, all of us take turns for the greater understanding of those traveling with us and their experiences. Most times people say, oh, you're born with negative karma. You have to have lessons. When I heard the word net lessons the first time, I went, oh, that's a connotation like evil, bad, and wrong. You got a lesson.
Mhm.
You're going to have to, I think, why don't we call it experiences? You're going to experience something. How you handle it, that is your reward.
Mhm.
That is the outcome you want. How you handle this. Okay, so I want to go on and say, this is now our soul family, and we will take
Mhm.
turns. Um, I imagine there's many of you going out there. I have what we call a stronger soul. I envision my past lives that are brought to me mostly are men. And
Mhm.
so I have what we call the stronger soul. And there's probably many women out there that says, "Oh, I'm raising my son. The man I married ended up being my son. I'm taking care of him just like a mom." Well, you might have been his mom the last time, and you never got over. Maybe in this lifetime you're supposed to back off and let him be the man, or try to be. Maybe he
Mhm.
was your wife last time. Who knows? We don't have those answers, but you can look at personality types and you can see those tendencies.
Mhm.
It's quite amazing. Brother and sister abuse. One person could be the victim, and next time you could be the hero, or maybe you were heavy, or now you can be thin. Let me see. You know, a client realized the obstacles were in his way from his chosen career, like being tall enough or having enough funds to start a career hobby as a child. We choose a life, and even though you say, "Well, I'd like to be a hockey player," well, if you're only five
Mhm.
foot six as a man, it's going to be hard. I don't know how many, I don't know if there's height, but a lot of professions, sports rather, like a football player, you can't be five
Mhm.
foot six, 6.5. So why did you choose this life if that's a path you wanted to go into? The idea is maybe you'll pick something else to try where height is not the problem. I don't
Mhm.
know, but I found that a couple of times. So why this experience for this individual? To be satisfied with what he did have. And I came to a thought of saying, he has had multiple marriages and he did
Mhm.
produce children. And the children say to me, um, I chose these people for their biological interest, um, tendencies, experiences. I'm going to be able to excel because that parent is good at math. So you might have
Mhm.
been that parent to help that child through the adversity that you didn't have something. You may help that child get ahead because you
Mhm.
gave them the ability to do math better than not. And somebody else might not. So pre-life agreement, by the way, would you my father, by the way, you're not gonna be 6 foot tall, you can't go into hockey or football, but you be a good parent. And
Mhm.
that's something we have to recognize. Don't be hard on yourself because you can't do something. So if I had been a man last lifetime, by being a runner and a horsewoman, racing horses, I actually was in competition. Didn't matter how tall I was. How about the jockey in the big races? Maybe his
Mhm.
desire was to be a football player, but he said, I've got a lot of passion. I want to win. So I'm going to be a jockey instead. The circumstances of past life brought into this time may be opposite so that you can get adjusted to those differences. These experiences, some people call them lessons. I already talked about that. All contribute to the overall personal development and personality of who you are today. Those circumstances that are positive contribute to encourage and support us. Those that are not positive give us a drive to push ahead or become wise enough to not accept a situation that can be negatively impact our true path. I had written this out. I have 8 pages, everybody. For me to remember everything, I couldn't possibly do it. So excuse my eyes because I have to read. And so I do believe we are given hardships to learn the value of living, choosing them to learn from experience and progress positively to the next chapter of our life. For example, these are all clients, and I sat here really thinking, let's see, how many. And I didn't want you to think I was going through YouTube and taking everybody. Uh, I didn't listen to anything today. These are just stories, and I will be telling lots and lots of stories if I could ever catch up with things around here and get my own show started. These are some of them. Creativity, fashion designer. She had always, this client always enjoyed fashion design fabrics, and at one point wished she had taken a different path. In her current career, she greatly enjoys dressing for work to meet the public. And we had talked about her desire as a young woman to design. And so instead of that, she got into a career path where she has to meet the public. And so she enjoys fabrics and she looks good every day. So that still
Mhm.
satisfied the fashion design part of it. Okay, let's keep going. Another client worked after high school, got a job, and it was in downtown Sacramento. I think it was Macy's. And most of you may know Sacramento. Maybe you don't. Maybe the people in other states wouldn't know. But downtown Sacramento, it was very modern at one time. And we had some of the biggest anchor stores. And I think it was Macy's that she said, because I'm trying to remember. And I think I was there one time. upstairs they had what we call the better furniture area, and they had designers that worked there. And the
Mhm.
designers helped you pick the drapes to be made, or you bought them, but they were very high end. And this
Mhm.
young lady, though she was very young, she was very talented and she did very well for herself. And she put through stuff through school. And then she graduated, whatever degree or how much training, I don't know. And she got into another career path. I think she worked for the state of California. I'm not positive, but made that kind of job. So years later, now she's talking to me, and she's very unhappy. And the things about her career, it was very hard, buried. I don't know if she's a programmer or something, something, but she didn't find it emotionally satisfying. And she says,
Mhm.
I need to help to understand who I am. Would you please give me some ideas? Well, I'm not that clever. You know how many jobs there are on the telephone book? Oh, right? So what I
Right.
do is I enter your time and I look for something that made you happy. And for some reason, she wanted me to go all the way back to high school, after high school. And I stepped in her past and I saw her working with fabrics and being very happy. Not having any idea what this meant, she explained how happy she had been in this job at the Macy's store. And she
Mhm.
had briefly contemplated returning. Now, this is after I told her what I picked up. She had briefly contemplated returning to sales. And this is where it's hard. This is where you have to surrender your ego. Because she had attained a high level of supervisory or responsibility with the state of California, she felt that she dropped back to being a sales clerk in a fabric area of Macy's was below her.
Mhm.
And I went, you can imagine me. Really? You'd rather not be happy, but you could be really happy in the fabric area of Macy's. Remember, this is a long time ago.
Mhm.
And she was worried it wouldn't fit her ego. And she was honest with me. I mean, if you're going to pay me for my advice, please speak the truth. And she was speaking the truth. She's done so well. She thought that stepping back to a sales position was beneath her. Boy, I straightened her out. I said, I asked what would. Did she love and miss that job? And I remember her, she was a little tiny thing, really attractive. She would be really a beautiful salesperson in a beautiful store. I mean, it was great. Then she needed to find her happiness again. And I remember her nodding. This is the mid 90s, I think, somewhere in there. And I thought to myself, I think it was late 90s, 97, 98. So if you're hearing this, give me a call, right? I'd like to know what you got into. She did agree. And I says, for your life, at the end of your life, will you regret not helping people be satisfied with their environment? And she hadn't thought of it like
Mhm.
that. You can make a family happy by helping them design their wonderland, their house.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. So this is my tech guy. I've had my tech guy since 2000, and he and his wife came for a session initially, and he told me he was computer somebody, and I needed help. I always seem to need help, but I'm not somebody who just calls up and say, "Help me, help me." I give it a lot of thought, so I have learned immense amount of with this fella, and we had to talk today, and he reminded me of something. And I called him as I'm writing this up for the show tonight, why we pick who we are. And he did share with me that in, I think it was the early 90s, he had been part of a pop group coming out of Florida, and they were very successful. Why they broke up, I'm not sure. But that had set on his path the yearning to get his master's degree in music production
Mhm.
so that he could go into a different path. Well, all those years, he also had uh, whatever it was that caused them to break up, whatever. He got into tech also and sales, and he made tons of money. And he finally got his degree. And in those years, I did a past life regression for him. And of course, I didn't remember this. And unbeknownst to me, the yearning to continue the music had always been in the background. Now, I knew he got his music degree, what they call a master's in music production, where you get a sound stage and people come in and sing, and then you take care of all of it. The idea that
Mhm.
there's such a difference. So I've entertained in a lot of groups in the public, and it's very fun. I love that, especially when I get hit with 20, 30 people throwing questions at me. Blah, blah, blah. It's very stimulating. It's like an actor on the stage, right? Now, this is interesting. I like this. I don't know how many people are watching this tonight, but there's a different energy. So when we did the past life regression, he told me that uh, he's not Caucasian. I need to tell you, um, because this is why it was so interesting to him. He did marry a blue-eyed blonde German lady. She had was born and raised in Germany. Her parents had come over to the States, and she met him um, at an event, and they clicked off and got married. So when we did past life, he a future life. I did past life. We did future life too, and that's very possible. He was shown a future life of him being Eastern European, a blue-eyed blonde guitarist, and that he would be with this band everlasting, maybe like the Rolling Stones. Yet that's not yet because he's only well, I don't know. I don't think he's 60 yet. So he's a long, I've seen long life for him. So 30, 40 years in the future, he'll be born, which is amazing. We're still going to have pop bands in the future. Why not? You know, your grandchildren have to be born will maybe the next Elvis Presley. I mean, who knows, right? But he was very intrigued by that because not his Caucasian, but he did marry blue-eyed blonde. So he's going to become a blue-eyed blonde Caucasian in the future and a guitarist. I thought to myself, can you figure out what your name was? Or going to be write him a letter. Um, there's a lady that came to me and she was very frustrated with her life. She had hit middle age, about 50, 55. And she said, I can't quite put my hand on it. I know my life's important. I've raised children, but I've always had some missing, like I should know something. And we had this in-depth talk about her family, and then two-thirds of the way through, she's bringing this up. I go, you bringing this up? I'm almost done, right? And she was a frustrated level that she wanted some help. And so she had said, you know, you're going to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to call Nancy, I need your help. You must be serious. So she came over and we talked about him and we talked about the situation. And I thought, okay, when I do the sessions, everybody, I don't write anything down other than I have a stick map of who belongs to who. Upper left-hand corner is her name. Upper right-hand corner will be the husband and his family. Children left side, siblings on the right side. That's all I do because I forget instantly who everybody's talking about, right? What do you want to bring up who? And how do I find the individual? Oh, it's younger brother. Okay. And so she had several siblings. And what I have to do, which is kind of crazy, I have to go through everybody and I have to find out the soul connection. We used to come in to take turns. We come in with one sibling or spouse, future child, grandchildren that you're going to have a strong connection with. And that's some reason I can tell that. So when I started describing visually which child, which brother or nephew or whoever, who is this? And he was also very light, like a dark blonde. And she said, oh, this is my younger brother. And I says, what's his name again? And I says, you have very strong connection to him. And she got a little emotional, you know, like, hmm. And I said, well, what's going on? I said, wait a minute, don't tell me. Hmm. And I stepped into this brother and I asked the brother, I said, what is your connection to your sister? And I said her name. He said to me, sister, she went first and I was born later. I again will get into drugs and she is to be my witness for my success or my failure. Will I overcome and conquer those things and those demons? And that's what he said to me. When I said that, she almost started crying. She choked up to where she could hardly talk. And with that, please call me if you listen to this, because I like to know the outcome. People, you know, they don't think of coming back and telling me what happened, dear? What happened? With a cracking voice, she perfectly understood and knew this to be true. And she was very satisfied that was the reason for her life. She volunteered to be his witness. We should take in consideration what is the role for you for somebody else's life. You would think it's minor, but in the scope of life and the reason we choose a life, which is a fleeting moment in time, the child that needs help, did you listen? To the adult that needs your help, Were you sympathetic? Were you forgiving? For the sibling, what are your role? What is your role? Are they here to
Mhm.
witness you? Maybe you're here to witness them. Have you ever met someone who does everything they can to stay in the water? My sister's like that. I have a sister, she'll do everything she can. She lives by the ocean. She walks by the beach. She always has that kind of person, always in the ocean, right? And I'm the kind of person that likes the mountains. I love to smell the pine tree. And so we have what called the beach peoples, the surfers, the scuba divers, the fishermen, etc. You wonder, well, what's that? Well, same with me being in the mountains. I might have been a miner in Grass Valley, California. Who knows, right? And
Mhm.
so you wonder, what is the pull to the ocean? Are there mermaids? I don't know, and I'm not going on that road. But there is some kind of obsessions, particularly more with the ocean than with the trees. I know a few people that can't stand it. I have a little friend. We're going to go camping eventually. We've been putting it off for months and months, and she really wants to go to the ocean. She did mention Humboldt State, but the last few times she's mentioned, let's go to the ocean. So, not that she's obsessed with. I just put two and two together here. And we
Mhm.
have to take in consideration they're wanting to overcome the fear of the drowning last time because they also had the love of the ocean. The love of the ocean took them to, or were they the victim on a ship that sank? So we have to look at the broader picture. We have to sometimes be sympathetic if someone does something like that. You're always at the ocean. You're never home. You're always surfing. What is somebody's obsession? It's not always negative. It's sometimes a positive overcoming of a fearful moment in the past. Um, and then the last thing is we sometimes don't realize, and I brought this up at the very end of this, did they drown in the ocean? Was there
Mhm.
turbulence? Was it that they had a life of great satisfaction on the water? Remember Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean, how much they loved that? Or
Mhm.
were they from a planetary system, where there was a civilization that lived exclusively underwater? We don't know, right? So you have to sometimes look at why does somebody like this versus that. I know people in this time. I actually had a client that couldn't give up smoking. I don't know if they have or not yet. Kind of feels like maybe they are having a hard time, and it's more than addiction, I believe. And I picked up this person was a 1930s, 1940s when it was so popular, and he was a
Mhm.
police person. And some of the ambiance of being a police person was a cigarette hanging out of your mouth. It gave them a feeling. So he brought that into. He was a detective in a past life. And so you're sitting at the desk, you got the cigarette, and there's a whole uh, look of a detective or police person of that era. And so that past life brought it into this life. And he'd have to give up the identity of being that person to give up the cigarettes. And I says, what do you do now? I said, anything like that. I says, okay, you've ended that life. Why don't you start over in this life and be who you need to be? And he was really into sports. I think that was some of his frustration. I don't remember him very well. I remember talking, excuse me, you can, I'm trying to remember. But I do remember the situation. Uh, so the other one would be this woman. I mentioned this before. I went with a gal named Karen to a lecture in downtown Sacramento or Carmichael area, um,
Mhm.
Howe Avenue, Fair Oaks, Carmichael area. The woman, there was a learning exchange. That's what it was. I think it was. And there was a lady, and she's a channeler. And I didn't know who this lady was. She was on a kind of a platform area, and there was quite a good number of the audience. And Karen said to me she wanted to go and she wanted me to go with her. It's hard for me to go with something like that because I could never feel. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the channel was there, and about third row from where she was a couple of ladies sitting in front of us, and then Karen and I were sitting off to the side. And the woman said, "Do you have any questions?" And this lady raised her hand and start talking. And I did bring her up some months back. Why can't I not connect with people? And she expressed frustration, how she couldn't identify, like, talk to people, talk to women. She didn't feel like she belonged. And her statement, I remember so clearly, why can I not? Why can I not connect with people? So I take it to be interchange in relationships. I don't feel like I belong. The channeler was explaining her life in Ireland, that she had been a man and she had been on the in the in the force as a fighter, whatever that was. And I thought, well, that's fun. I never would have thought anything like that. And just as she said that, the lady burst out in flames, like a boom, like this. And I went, whoa, wait a minute, what is this about? I almost had a heart attack. And she sat right in front of me, right? So she had a reaction to that, whether positive or negative, but her true self came out. And afterward, I told Karen, I went, oh no, you won't believe what I saw. Clearly, she was of a gaseous world. And this life she came to experience was a flesh and body. So I was explained once that spirit kind likes to have a life here, even though we think, oh, it's hell.
Hmm.
Because when you hug somebody, you have density, you have thickness, you have a hug. And flesh is important because we feel our entire body. How many ladies out there have had lingerie or a nightgown or something of silk or of a fabric that was clutchy like this? I have. And you think, oh, this is the most comfortable thing I've ever worn. Or a big fuzzy blanket in the middle of winter. And you curl up with a pair of socks on and hot cocoa. Oh, tell me your whole body isn't experiencing that. Well, as a gaseous, flamey kind of a person, how do you know where the brain would be, right? Is there arms on a, on a plant like that? Or do they just float around going, who knows? But she did. She just went, whoop. And I said, we went left, and I told Karen, I said, what's my responsibility if I pick this up? And she said, be quiet, because it was a channeler's night, not yours. And that's
So,
sometimes why I won't watch other psychics do readings. I'm always afraid I'm going to pick up something else. Does it mean I'm
right.
always right? Oh, no, absolutely not. But I don't like to get a different answer when I can feel it. And I've told Shar and a couple people I've been teachers to that when an individual like myself does a reading, truth has weight because you've entered time and you're touching something real. The
Hmm.
untruth has nothing, it's a void, it's black. So if I say an untruth, it doesn't feel right. See? So I didn't say the challenge was wrong. She might have seen the wrong lifetime. What I
Hmm.
picked up was something that bothered her now. So neither one of us could have been wrong. I just got it and I had no idea. Anyway, the woman was probably 35, 40-ish. I don't know. And clearly she was still struggling. I hope that the answer of being an Irish fighter was good enough. There was a show
Hmm.
I had up. I listened to Coast to Coast since 96. And one of the first shows I ever listened to um, really got my attention was, well, it's not important, but it was the late 90s. And then this individual was on again. And I do believe there's a chance, because this man proved it to me, that we can go back and forth. And I wanted to explain this. Coast to Coast had a guest that felt Coast to Coast AM, and you can get it, a lot of different platforms to listen to it. I've been listening to it, like I said, since 96 and Art Bell. Oh my God. I listened to Art Bell. It was every night if I could. Um, Coast to Coast had a guest that felt and was convinced that in a past life he had been a horse. Now he has been on a few times, so get on Coast to Coast AM, Coast to Coast AM.com, I believe, and type in guess who was a horse, and you will find his. If you can listen to it, do so. It was amazing. Um, he was very convincing. And so I thought about it. And so in that life, in the prior life, when he was a horse, did he fall in love with humankind? Was he loved so dearly as a horse by a human that he desired to become a human to experience it? Very possibly. Was there a mistake? And he thought, let me try it? Or was he someone that needed to experience man and go back to being a horse? Maybe he was abusive to man. And they said,
Hmm.
you know what? You're going to go and be a human. You're going to learn what it feels like to be a human when you had a good deal when you were a horse. And so I think he's been off on about 3 times. Um, was he, or did a man who mistreated horses become one? and when that life was to return to being human. So you can go back and forth either way. So if a human mistreated horses, then he became that horse. Now he's back as a human, and he loved being a horse so much that he's resentful that he came back as a human. I love that idea. I love it. And how many of my clients over the years we've talked about my technician guy, he's had many, many dogs, and he dreams of pets yet to come into his life. And those pets are the reincarnation of pets he's had before. There's a lady in the Bay Area, um, is very convinced that one of the horses she has is a reincarnation of a horse she had before. And I don't know if Cindy would mind me telling the story,
Hmm.
but what I get from it is that the horse had the same mannerisms and the same love for her and the same pawing of the ground, same everything, almost the same color. I remember it was Cindy, if you hear this, kind of a reddish brown color. I brought this up before months and months back. This was a theater in the round kind of a situation where people would sit around and, these Larry, Nancy, where's your coffee? And take off. And I'd start talking to everybody in the group. I had a lot of fun doing these things. Um, while I'm talking to people, yes, I've done lots and lots of past life regressions. I really enjoy it. And surprisingly, really fun doing a whole group. And I've entertained myself while doing a group because I'll step into your storyline. Oh, we got something. Do we really choose to come here, or does God force us here? Oh, I was going to bring that up, but I'll talk about it now and catch up. There's this. I love these past life stories of children. Oh my gosh, they're wonderful. And one little boy was talking to his parents and said, when I was in heaven before, I was talking to God. He pushed me, and now I came in your tummy. And I am a believer that if a child leaves before identity or possibly before their career paths start, that they are given the opportunity to return quickly. And one little child said, I left early and I was able to choose who I want to be, and God showed me uh, some streets, and I could see through all the homes, and the one mama I knew would treat me good was you. So there's like God told him to go back. I'd like to know how God would choose it, push a little child. And the other child saw his mommy through the house walls and chose that person. Another little boy was able to choose his mom. And after he was born, he's like 2, 3, 4 year olds, right? I chose you when I followed you walking in the snow. And she relayed to the story, past life, children's past lives on YouTube. Please type it in. You'll get all kinds of stories. Verification of children's past lives is another one I belong to, like 3, 4 of them. I go on YouTube, mostly read those and see the cat and dog cartoons. Um, sorry. So anyway, the mother relays that she didn't particularly ever go to the snow, except for one time. She took a vacation and she walked in the snow. And when they got done with their vacation, went home, she got pregnant. So it was that little boy following the future mom. I love these stories. And so you do have choice. Those are adults. There's so many stories. One little boy came back, uh, and I'll talk about this, Dr. Jeffrey Long and Dr. Melvin Morris. There's so many good doctor professional peoples out there that have investigated past life stories of children. Dr. Jeffrey Long, um, he did most of his research initially overseas, where in India, Pakistan, some of those countries, it's common. Oh, this child came back, it was somebody else. Absolutely. You talk about things like that in America, they kind of put their fingers up like this is wrong, work of the devil. Yet over there, it's so normal that children are not afraid to talk about this. Here, these little 2, 3 year old people, you can look them up, they're wonderful stories. Well, spontaneous in an innocent moment, just say something crazy. And it's like the mother sits there, gosh, they're how the saying and open, God, what do I do with this knowledge? And they sometimes have to be reminded years later, oh, that happened and never followed up on it. So the little boy that Dr. Jeffrey Long talked about was he come into life with this big, not a scar, but that looked like a scar on his head. And he was born with that. And so as the little boy started growing up, he said, I lived in the village one over and I was murdered. Well, no one wanted to believe him. And Jeffrey Long found this out, I guess people were talking about this little boy who had been reincarnated from somebody else in another village, and they said, "Why don't you take that little boy to the village next door and find out?" Well, they took him over there, and not only did he recognize the man that killed him with a hatchet, he was able to go to where the hatchet had been buried by this man and dig it up. We're not that good at psychics. I have helped the police. I've worked with them. We can do everything. When I started describing a murder scene and what happened to the wife, yes, I got it right. Some of the information had been found, some of it not. But where he buried her was really hard. In fact, I think what happened was there's two detectives and then the woman who touched base with me at Placerville. The only problem was what mountain range. There was a little girl that was kidnapped in Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe. And we were talking, the police came down there and I gave him all this information. He says, "How do you know this?" I says, "Well, I'm backed up in time." And I saw her getting in the back seat with what I called a Chinese lady. And it was kind of like, okay, they took the gospel, but later on, 20 years later, she was held captive. The woman that was the wife of the man who did the abduction was a little tiny black-haired woman. And I had been right, but really what threw it off is I saw the word Lemon Hill Road. Well, in Tahoe, there is a Lemon Hill Road, but there's also one in Sacramento.
Yes.
And it was a yellow house. And he wanted me to drive up there. And I went, which yellow house? And what if I picked the wrong one? Very hard. It's very difficult to do. It's one thing I kind of stay away from it.
Let me
Anyway,
interject really
so
quick. Let me answer a question here, James. Yeah, we are allowed to choose who we who we hang out with because we're around the same group of people all the time. We just don't realize it. Like you
mm,
may go to you may pass
yep,
away, go cross over, and you're going to run into your mother, but your mother's going to be in some other form. So in the next life,
hmm
you decide what you're going to be. You may be your mother in this next round. So you are able to
we take
choose.
turns.
Yeah, we take turns. The other answer to the other half of your question is, I would think that there are people like anything else that procrastinate in choosing, even with kids. And so I would think it's just like with a parent that the powers that be will give you a swift kick to get you to go, into whatever you're supposed to go into, because they don't want to see you
I
procrastinate.
agree that he said that God pushed him back down to earth and he came into and
Right.
he's like 2.5, 3 years old, mommy's tummy. I would think that the soul is wiser than we are.
Yeah.
Like we have our soul buried within us and we're not allowed to communicate.
Hmm.
I at one point thought, well, wait a minute, I'm me. My soul is in there.
Hmm.
Do I die and the soul just takes off? Well, who we are is the soul when we die. The
Hmm.
personality is gone. The
Hmm.
soul is our face, but we cannot remember.
Right.
What's the fun
And I
of
would
living
also
if we
I would
remember it
also think
all?
because when we die, there's a certain time that we're going to live, and there's a certain time that we're going to die. The soul knows this. The soul, when it's your time,
Mm.
no choice, boom, you're gone. And I would think it's the same way with coming back. So if you're procrastinating about who you want to be or who you want to be with when you come back, at some point the soul is going to say, "Well, we're going to go back now," and that's it. There's no choice in it.
I
That's
also could talk about this for hours, and I want to
mhm,
get on to what I'm speaking here.
yeah.
Char, we need another half hour. Um,
Go for it.
is that I've described children yet to be born. In fact, I
Hmm.
had one lady, it was a few months back. Um, I asked her if she was pregnant, and she says, absolutely not. Well, 6 weeks later, she called me back. She says, how do you know I was pregnant? And I said, because the soul told me it was already with you. And so I've been
Hmm.
able to describe children yet to be born, what they look like. And how would I know that if it was on your timeline? All I'm doing is just receiving like a newspaper reporter. So I know that we choose that when it's supposed to happen for that biological material that you will get for that one lifetime. I want to keep going
Okay.
here really quick, everybody.
Yeah,
The
we
boy I
do
spoke
choose to come
to in
back,
this
though.
group,
Just to clarify, just a second. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Just to clarify, we do choose to come back. We do choose our own life,
yeah,
but sometimes there's some issues where our lives may get chosen for us. It's like anything else, but we do choose to come back. You know, my past life. I was this like Nancy said earlier in the show. I was this rancher, and I didn't complete the stuff I wanted to complete. So this is why I do what I do. So I chose this life to do what I do.
Yeah. And I think there's something to say, um, the predominance of a personality trait is domino effect played off of the last life. Because I'm a strong personality also, but I also saw myself as a male many times, but I also saw myself as female. So I'm a strong female this lifetime, but I wish not to be a female next time.
Hmm.
Sometimes hard to explain all that. I was telling you about a group I entertained. I did talk about this months back. Um, of a I was talking to the group and spontaneously I'll get past lives. So I've done a lot of regression work, but I've also done a lot of spontaneous work. And I brought up the girl who I saw as a past life being a ballerina in Russia. And unbeknownst to me, when I started describing, she started yelling at her mom across the room, Mom, she's talking about me being a ballerina and got all excited. The mother stood over next to her and talked to me through the earpiece that the daughter was talking to. Did you know she's been a ballerina all her life and she wants to become a professional? And I says, clearly in that life, she had to leave early. Either they didn't live very long. You need to figure out who I'm talking about and find out the life of that woman, if she was ill or she died shortly after, that she never fulfilled whatever goal she wanted. And now this lifetime, your daughter here, she was 17, she'd been a ballerina all her childhood, and she was going to be a professional ballerina. And when I do things like that, and it's so spontaneous, I know there's no mistakes because I see pictures of who they were. And the other girl, and I want to get onto this one too, that I spoke of at the time was she showed me she wanted to be a fashion designer. I didn't know that. And I said, I'm being told of this woman that was in fashion design and that you are her coming back. And I described, unknowns to me, Coco Chanel, a willow branch of a woman wearing a long black dress. And I gave so much description that the girl knew who I was talking about, which is to me very satisfying because like I said, I'm a receiver, I'm a newspaper reporter, I give the news. Okay, so this group in Placerville, I was talking and I spoke at this once before too. I saw this young man sitting there, 15, 17, it's hard to tell age sometime with the young people. All of a sudden his arms were up and he was bobbing in the belly of a big ship. And he was hitting these floating boxes of cargo. And he was so distressed, he was going to die. And that's how he left that life. And I saw this and I went, wow, I don't know what this young man wants, but clearly his soul wanted me to tell him the problem of that life. And I said to him, I says, if you were to tell me that you're afraid of water, that it would be hard for you to take a bath or a shower because you died in the cargo belly of a big ship, I want to tell you that that has finished. You don't have to carry that grief in with you anymore. You will not drown in this lifetime because it's not meant to happen. And the mother sitting next to her, I thought she was going to leap out of her skin. She says, "Oh, he hates showers. He hates tubs. I can't get him to ever take a shower and clean up." And I said, "Well, he doesn't have to do that anymore." She says, "But that doesn't explain. It explains a little bit. You know what? He's trained to be an Olympic swimmer. He'd go swimming in the Olympic pool every day. So he was trained for the Olympics, an Olympic-sized pool, but he couldn't get in the shower or take a bath. Two different scenarios. The big pool, no problem. Small confined quarters because he died that way, big time. That was very, very fun. Past life trauma is not recognized as life but plays out, possibly as a challenge. Being murdered and needing to experience a life as a positive versus a negative outcome. Okay, so this is where I talked about the boy, child born to bring justice to the one who murdered him in a past life. Stories from Dr. Jeffrey Long spoke of a child who had a scar on his head and spoke of neighbor's town where a man had murdered him with an axe. Yearning to experience life or fulfill an unfinished life. Small boy says to his mom, "You will let me grow up this time." The mother confused. This is like a 3-year-old saying to his mother. The mom confused asked, "What do you mean?" "The last mommy I had was mean and did not let me grow up," the small boy answered. These are verification of past lives, children's past lives. To love again, unfinished love, life and love. At the and I'd recommend everybody watch the What Dreams May Come. It's absolutely fabulous. At the end of
Mhm.
the movie, What Dreams May Come, a little boy sits at the end of a wooden pier playing with his toy um, boat. Camera turns to a small girl walking up the pier to this little boy, and she is eating a sandwich. He hears her walking, turns around, smiles, and she reaches out to him, offering her the other half of her sandwich to share with him. The scene before this, when Robin Williams, and I don't remember the character's name he played, he has rescued his wife from her imposed hell. And as she wakes up from that imposed hell, he says to her, you know, we could do this again. We could love again. And that cuts away to these little children. And it shows that you can request a life to connect with someone again. And I do believe that. There's a lady I found, this is weeks back, and I went looking for her again. Her name is Julie Poole, Poole. And um, Julie Poole online.com. You can look her up and read about her past life and experience her near-death experience life. Um, this is a gal that talked about speaking to the Life After Life near-death experiencers YouTube channel. She said that she has suffered a very unpleasant and traumatic accident as a young child, and she continued to endure cycles of abuse all through her teens. We have choices to make before picking a human experience. Her troubled life led up to committing suicide, and during her near death experience, the angels gave her instruction and knowledge of future events and to ask her to develop her intuition to go back and turn to service. What I do is called service. I service, which is a wonderful word. Upon returning, she was not damaged by her attempt and her illnesses, and she recovered and is doing reading and giving teachings. So she had chosen this life to go through the trauma, to understand human nature, to have a near-death experience of the angels get her on the path and teach her what she needed to tell us. And then she was to come back. They also told her that she would not have a long life, that she would be able to leave when she was 61. Now, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know that because I'm so driven. Shar and I talk about this, like what drives you to be who you are and what your goals are. We have to have goals to keep life going. And at some point at 76, I think, geez, I'm entitled to retire, right? But yet I want to do my YouTube. I have 8 books lined up to write and one for my grandmother. And I love this. I love doing the readings. So my next goal, maybe I'll look at 80. In 4 years, I'll be 80, maybe. And and that's the path I've chosen for this life. And I saw my first deceased person when I was 6. My father got killed by a drunk driver, and he visited us. And I remember thinking how interesting, strange he looked because he would light up the room, and he had this glow all around him. I was only 6 years old. I had no idea what that was. I never questioned. Um, we moved immediately, and yet before we moved, he was visiting. I didn't know what death was at 6. Um, so there's a client of mine. I've been talking to her for some years. We have a fun relationship. Um, she had talked to me before at psychic fairs, and her brother died, and she desperately loved him. Very tight family, 2 brothers and her. And unbeknownst to her, he did live in another state. And she asked me one time, well, what is he doing? And he yelled at me, I'm in the Caribbean, Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean. And you get information like that, you go, I'm going to be really right, or I'm going to be really wrong, but I have to say it. Like, what's my obligation? Well, I'm going to say what I get. And she said, no, you're wrong. I go, okay. I always own it, right? And so we hung up, and she called the son, adult son, who had been living in the house with the father, her brother. Well, Auntie, don't you know he was a great fan of Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean? In the basement, he's been building those pirate ships, and the walls are all covered with all the posters of the movies.
Mhm.
Duh, right? She called me immediately. I told her one time we're going to have her on as a guest because she tells great stories about this. And why would I make it up? Could couldn't possibly, that's the last thing I would think a spirit person would yell at me. And I thought it was odd that he was yelling. And she says, why don't you find out where he is? I did. I says, well, where are you? And he said, I'm on a pirate ship. And he showed me who he was. And kind of a thicker body, not real tall, 5'6", probably, 5'5", then were that shorter man, husky. And he showed me walking on the bridge of the ship. And they were cleaning it, just like Pirates of the Caribbean when they all scrubbed the ship down. And that he showed me what the outside the boat. He said that boat was really small. And I go, wow. And he says, kind of like the size of the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria. I go, let me see. Oh, Columbus. Okay. Duh. Small ship. And the outside of it was completely black. And I thought, well, that's odd. Why is the ship black? And he says, I don't think I like this life. Okay, right? And when I got off the phone, I went and told my husband, and he watches a lot of historical movies. He says, Nancy, I go, yes, tell me. He says, in those years, they put tar on the outside of the ships because they would be faster on the water. So naturally, the pirate ships would have tar on 'em because they had to run from the police peoples of that era. And I thought that was curious. Subsequent sessions, talking to the deceased brother, she had asked me to talk to him over and over, and most of the time he was obliging. And he then said, I'm not in that life anymore. And it finally occurred, I says, oh, what is he saying? And she says, well, he's not in that life anymore. And I went, oh, wow, wow, wow. Let's see. He died in this century. He got out of his body. He went back to that life and lived it. So if it was in the 1400s, he had a life there. But that soul didn't join it until he had this life first. Wait a minute, I'm confused. And I said, where are you? And he showed me being a stout woman, scrubbing clothing in a bucket with a voice like that. And I says, what are you? He says, I do clothing. I do washing. And I go, do you like this life? He's better. But you imagine how hard it was. They didn't live long, and you go Middle Ages in Europe. What a hard life. And she started laughing. I go, she said, I'm so glad he has that life. You know, he was always telling me he thinks women have it easy, that women have an easier life than they do. Well, he's experiencing womanhood. Scrub, honey, you keep it up. But the thinking that he went back to have a life, and Blake was, for us, it's already over. For him, he's having now a second life as a woman in the same era to be part of the Pirates of the Caribbean. That just made my head twirl around. Um, okay, uh, twice now I've seen an intelligent life force that have not originated here on this planet, me personally. One was a girl who had lost connection to an entity in a far distance planet. Remember Stargate? Remember how, we traveled through the wormhole to somewhere else? Well, she created an opportunity for an entity to come. And I think I'm going to tell you to look up the Seth materials, and the channeler was Jane Roberts. In fact, I just saw a YouTube, a recording of Seth being channeled by her, but I don't know if it's the last one. She did die of this. She died of exhaustion. Um, but it was very interesting. And she had the same connection to somebody. And this is the early 90s, probably 93. Um, and she says, unbeknownst to us, she was ill. And I had told her, I won't say on the air because I don't know if she'll listen, but she had a cancer. And I saw something wrong with her. And she went and she got discovered to have breast cancer. So she asked me to connect with this fella, and this had happened earlier in 90, I think it was 91. Kathleen and her sister Marlene had asked me to the house, and someone in the group, about 35, 40 people, asked me, what's going to happen in 50 years? And I was sucked up in kind of a vortex. I thought I was going to die. And I went 50 years in the future, where if anybody in that group would hear this, let me know. I saw people on the East Coast and people on the West Coast move interior. and I saw a great amount of water everywhere. And unbeknownst to me, in 50 years, that was probably 30 years ago, we're getting close to that now, where we're going to have waterways where we never had them before. Anyway, so this girl who had lost that connection asked me to connect with this person, and I felt a real person. I felt the strength of a very large person, of a masculine energy, um, but without a portal. It was just a connection like I read people over the planet. Why not solar system? I did feel what we call a fuzzy wuzzy tunnel kind of a feel, not like a Stargate, not like a wormhole, but some sort of energy. And I don't know if I followed his energy to get to him, but we connected again, and she did get some help. I think his backing off of her was to touch base with me. Oh, her name was Pamela. I think it was Pamela. So Pamela, you know who I'm talking about now. All right. Well, you probably from the story. I don't know how I can remember that. So get hold of me if you hear this. Powerful energy and sensei male presence, a turning point for me as the client was fully aware of this normal process for her and bring me to this incredible experience. And then I said again, review the Seth materials by Jane Roberts. She wrote quite a few books on it. Um, and then, of course, I did mention the gaseous world. This is a shooting victim, and Miss Missy Jenkins Smith, 1997, Heath High School. And she did get paralyzed, and she's being interviewed, and she has married, and she's had some 3 kids. And in the interview, she said some things that were pretty profound. Why did I choose this life? I look for messages to keep me going. You are here to fulfill your purpose for being here. Survivor's guilt, yes. Don't focus on the negative and look at the positive. So, in this, even though she was shot paralyzed, she gave a lot of spiritual thinking to the process of why she's still alive. And she did speak of a friend that got killed. And she realized how important it is for her to relish life, as the girls that did die do not have the chance to have the life that she has, even though she's paralyzed. So it's not like she, on some level, she was so young in high school, this shooting, but
Hmm.
she is a better person because of the shooting than she ever would expect to be, because she's so grateful that she had a chance to live. And that gets you to a place where we choose a life, why would we choose a life where we're going to get damaged like that or get shot? My father was 33. He got hit and killed head on by 3 Korean War veterans. And the
Hmm.
police tried to blame it on him because they were war heroes. But they were drunk and my father was not. Why does that happen? Right? Shooting survivor shares near death experience, and her name is Missy Missy Jenkins Smith, and she
Hmm.
was part of the 1997 Heath High School shooting. There's a young man that's also paralyzed, um, and he had been an athlete, a runner. Name is Griffin, gravely injured. In this interview, he then added, I never gave up, no matter how bad I wanted to. To everyone sitting here before me, do not live a life without purpose. Deep down inside, you know you have something to show. So whether you realize it or not, never make excuses, especially when you have a loving family able to give you what you need and want. I just want to show that everyone can do it, no matter what you've been through. I never want to live that life again. I do everything I do because I don't want to live like that, meaning as a cripple. He lost his leg. And this was told to ABC News. Um, and what that was is he learned to run again. And they showed him running with artificial legs. And so he conquered it from a terrible shooting where he couldn't walk at all. And now he got it all back. Interview of a near death experience. My strength is being a kind person, being smart, being respectful to others, being a great fan, and being a really good leader. So that's one statement a near deather said to a group. These 2 categories I'm going to speak of now, I want to tell you I'm very sensitive to this. I've had children, grandchildren, great grandchildren now. And so don't write me, be sympathetic that I need to bring this up. And I understand people's fear of this and their anguish and everything. Um, I'm only relaying some of the information Spirit has given me. It doesn't fit every situation. and clearly not all the reasons are given, nor do I know them all. When a child is born asleep or born to experience suffering and an early death, no matter what reason and the logic of those answers, we are still the ones suffering, and some answers will not be found out until we return and reunite with them again. A spirit person came to me, and I talked to them for a child that was born sleeping, and the child wanted me to relay how grateful this little boy was for the mom to carry the child term. I don't think they had anything wrong. I think they just die. I don't know what causes it when they're born asleep. And he was so grateful because during the pregnancy, all that love, all the attention, all the family get-togethers, all the anxiety, all the stress, all the grief. He had an entire lifetime in 9 months of emotional. He didn't want to dedicate himself to 80, 90 years, 70, 80 years. He wanted a short term. But why would it happen in the first place? That was always going to happen. He chose that life. I don't have
Hmm.
answers. But when I told it to the lady, the mom, it's not like she knew, but there was some sort of okay with that. That wouldn't happen to everybody. I couldn't possibly say. And I've had a miscarriage too. I didn't grieve it like this. I just felt like it wasn't going to work. I just had some instincts. I have witnessed by spirit telling me that yes, some families do exit together to be able to come back together again later. There's a YouTube, there's a family that lost three children in a car accident, three teenagers. And tell you, I just grieve every time I see that. I send them a lot of love. I pray for them. I I don't know what the story why there's three children, two girls and a boy had to leave together.
Hmm.
Um, because they're gone and they're together. We here are the sufferers. I didn't really grieve my father's death at 33 until I was in my 30s when I reached 33 myself. Because then I realized how much he had lost, that he was missing by not being around for his grandchildren. In my family, it's pretty difficult. My father lost his father early. My mother was 12 when her father was killed, and I was 6 when I lost my father. So my marriage at the time, I was pretty upset because I thought, wow, is it going to run in the families here? I didn't want my ex-husband to die at that time. Was not what I wanted. Um, okay, second, this is not answer I expect to receive from a soul, this next one. About 20 years ago, I talked to a client and she wished to have answers from her teenage son who was born with severe disabilities. We're talking somebody that needs constant care in a wheelchair. Talked to him. It was just a lovely young man in his mind. I imagine he had a brilliant mind. He was just trapped in his body, which is, so he communicated to me. This is an unusual story. He said that he had a too difficult, TOO, difficult life before, and he wanted a life of relaxation and had chosen his mother as she would take very good care of him with lots of love and protection. I can't imagine what kind of life it would have been, but maybe he was in a country where there was hardship and all he knew was strife. And so he said, I would like to have a life again. I want to come back soon and I want to recover. However long this person will live, I know I'll be loved every day. And so I believe that. Does that work every single time? If I choose, I would like to think that. But I imagine there's children that are born to bodies where they're not expecting to be born in the body, but they have to learn compassion for that lifetime and acceptance. So I imagine it could go both ways. Very early in the 90s, I enjoyed friendship with a coworker with the telephone company. I had 5 satellite offices and I would have to drive around, and this gal lived in Truckee. I mentioned to her about 6, 8 months back. And I really liked her. We were both strong personalities. We both were supervisors. It was really one of the friendships with a woman that I really enjoyed. And I would go up and we would visit. And I then got into this. I got in this in 90, and I didn't leave the telephone company until April of 92. So when I got into this, I shared it with her, and we had a lot of conversation. And um, unbeknownst to me, she found a psychic to go visit. And it was at the North Tahoe side, but on the Nevada side, if I remember right. And so there's people that do these readings everywhere. I don't like to be called a fortune teller. It kind of rubs me the wrong way because I have trouble with the word psychic because I just it reminds me of when I was a child. We go to a circus and there was fortune tellers and there were the psychics.
Right.
Stay away from her. I go, why? Why? Anyway, she went to get a reading, North Lake Tahoe for the fun of it. And I recently, as I had just recently got this, getting sparked her interest. She called very upset afterward. In fact, the next day is when I heard from her, and she called me from trucking. I was in, oh my gosh, where was I working? Auburn, California, I think. Um, and she had to reconsider stepping into the paranormal world. And I go, oh my gosh, what happened? You were so excited when I was sharing with you what I do now. And I'd given her some information. And she was just, and I could hardly get out of it. I said, would you talk to me for heaven's sakes? I was
Hmm.
shocked and asked her what had happened. She said the psychic had told her the wrong twin died. Think about that.
Wow.
The wrong twin has died. And I,
Wow.
of course, almost yelled into the phone. My friend had never told me that she had a twin brother that was born asleep. What makes this upsetting
Wow.
is that she is a strong soul
Hmm.
and she was born with a physical disability. The twins, this pregnancy was the only pregnancy the mother had. And the family couldn't quite get over the fact this beautiful male child died and the crippled female survived. Um, if you ever hear that, I'd love to hear from you again. It was kind of like she just, she made some indication that her parents found the situation difficult, and she always wondered why she was born this way. And then she got the answer, and yet it was very difficult for her. This I found at one of the, I don't know which reading, one was a boy that was Griffin or Pool or one of those, but I did like it. It is a Bible verse. I don't usually quote the Bible. It's been 30 years since I dipped into it. So this is a quote. Yet, comma, you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are but a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. James 4:14. Why did I like this? It's up to us to burn as a candle as bright as we can. I do believe that we can have a big flame or we can be just a little pixie thing. We will
Hmm.
have the life that we desire and work for. When I get, as a human being, get tired, I think to myself, and this is because I had cancer. I married early, 4.5 years we dated, Catholic marriage. A year after we got married, all the friends they got married on the same day. We all got married. 5 couples got married the day after 2 year graduation from college. Then we had we got married a year, 9 months later, we had a child, and um, I got cancer at 39 in 1987. And those years, chemotherapy would kill people. And so they didn't give it to me. And maybe I did want it, just so I wouldn't worry. And it made me realize how important my life was. And I divorced my husband 6 months after cancer treatments ended, the radiation. And then I realized, geez, I have a good job at the telephone company. I bought a house, but the passion was gone. Before I loved doing what I do, but the passion of my life, and I felt like my flame had dimmed. And I said, there has to be more to life than the struggle of just working, buying a house, paying the bills. And that those years, right now, it's very popular for people who have low incomes to RV it. All kinds of people get RVs and travel the United States. I would have loved to have done that if I could afford it at the time. Choices like that weren't there then. And I thought there has to be a reason while I'm here. And I started looking for answers. And if I told you the story one night, we'll have to do synchronicity stories, how the universe directed me to the Spirit of Grace, Universal Christ of the Master, Spirit of Grace Church, Citrus Heights, California. I was with them 15 years. I did get my ministry, but I went through Spiritual National Spirits Association of America, and I found a church out of Florida, Reverend Judy Fisher, Church of the Living God, and it was more liberal. The church, UC, Kennedy Keck, they did not believe in reincarnation, nor did they believe in UFOs. And, you know, I didn't want that. I wanted a broader picture to be part of. And so when I discovered what was going on with me, and my goal was to find out why bad things happen to good people. And my husband and I were athletes, raising kids, 4-H. We did everything, no smoke, drank, nothing. Boring sports people, you know, I was a runner. And I thought there has to be reasons why they're suffering. And I got into this and discovered what was going on with me. And of course, my children have a great deal of abilities, but they chose different paths.
Mhm.
And I ended up leaving a 24-year career with Pacific Bell to pursue this. And one reason was I really didn't think I was going to live. And I found out all this information, and it drives me to teach you that we do survive. I get proof every day, and I want my light, that flame on the candle, to burn as bright as possible. And I encourage you to see who you are, and you think you don't have value, you don't think you have interest. Even you have to go back to your childhood. So this happened twice. One lady comes to me, she says, "My son is a lazy bum." I go, "What are you talking about?" She was calling me. She says, "Oh, we live by the water and all he does is surf every day." And I says, "I want you to go down. I want you to get into telephone book and I want you to find every surf company in America. Call them up and say how wonderful your son is and get him a job." And she got a job right there in town. Um, Call me. I'd like to know how it turned out. Anyway, got a job and he started, you know how you have to sand the boards out and put wax on them? He ended up becoming a designer. She called me back and said he now not owns it, but he designs surfboards. So he got a career of it. Find out where your magic is and
Mhm.
develop it and get your passion. You were born here for, you chose a life. You're here for a reason. I got cancer. I have a miserable marriage. I said, what are you learning from it? You know, I have to speak today, and this is part of the notes. That cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. It changed everything. And I'm a knothead. I'm stubborn, right? And one time I called, I said, God couldn't get my attention. So he got this red brick and he just hit me on the head with it. He says,
That's it.
"Are you awake yet? You have a destiny." I've loved this every moment. So I want to encourage you, find your flame and burn as bright as possible. You will not leave one day sooner than you're supposed to, and have a good life. Enjoy your life. Okay. Oh, 8 o'clock. I told you to take another half hour. Thank you,
That's
everybody,
okay.
for coming. If you
No
want,
problem.
Google me, just say nancymatz.com, Nancy Matz author, and my YouTube is Nancy Matz Psychic. Okay, everybody, thank you for coming.
Cool, cool, cool. Great Friday night, guys. All right, we got a packed weekend. We are going to be starting to read Frankenstein on Sunday, so that's going to be the beginning. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It has another title though. It's not what you think it is. Just it's got this really long title. But yeah, so we're going to start Frankenstein on Sunday. On Monday, our good friend Glenn Steckling will be here, and he comes from a long line of folks that investigate UFOs and ETs. So he's going to be with us again on Monday. So, like I said, we've got a big calendar coming. Also, I've had a bunch of projects in fire, and Nancy and I were kind of announced this the other day, but I kind of held back. I'm going to be doing working with tarot and doing and oracle cards, and start to do some readings. And I need volunteers right now to help me hone my skills a little bit on there. So if you feel the urge to have some tarot cards read, or want oracle cards done, that would be great. Okay, and this is so I can hone my skills a little bit because I haven't done this in a while. And just let me know. Just email me, contact me on Facebook, and we'll get together. We can get together, online, and do that.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's gonna be fun. Things are gonna be
I
interesting.
I'm very excited when we were talking. I got very excited, and I've sent her some decks. It's hard after all these years. Where is the deck? And I love the artwork on these. I think
Yeah.
it's fun to look at the cards. I don't use a tarot, but I love looking at the pictures. So I encourage people to touch base. I think she's going to be really good at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is it,
All right.
and
By the way,
it's
I
free.
am looking at this. Michelle said something about living in the country. I'm a country person. I lived a lot of years in the country of horses and running. I prefer quieter. We
Mhm.
lived at Hornbrook, Black Mountain. You look at Black Mountain, Hornbrook, California. I moved down to take care of my husband. We are now in Oroville, and we're in a senior park because I was supporting two houses, and there's a necessity to be near a hospital for a while here.
Mhm.
So that's that. Um, thank you for all the comments in here. All right, sweeties.
All right. And like I said, contact me via email. You guys know how to find me, and you know, um, social media, California Haunt social media, and I will do the readings for free because I'm practicing. You'll be my victims. I mean, my first clients. So help me out a little bit if you'd
I
like that done, and all that. So
and I've actually said to her she should do. Did you get the note? Maybe
I got the
do
memo.
readings for people's pets.
Mhm,
She's very attuned to animals, so we'll
mhm.
see what happens here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yay!
Okay. Other than that,
All
be
right,
sure to check out
everybody.
our store. Yeah, be sure to check my store out. It's down the links down there. Be sure to check out the Patreon. Um, Coming up here, and I want to make this quick announcement for the people, everyone that's on Meetup. There's going to be some changes coming towards the end of the year for Meetup, and so I've had to make some choices. I'm going to get a letter out to people about this, explaining what's going on. But yeah, there's some changes that are coming at Meetup, so I'm just going to let you guys know. Okay. All right, guys. I will see you on
And I will be
Sunday.
touching base with my meetup people. So,
Yeah, yeah, Nancy. We might even Nancy and I might even merge meetups. We'll see. We'll see because the way things are going. We'll see. It just depends. We're just
yeah,
working on stuff. Yeah, to try and keep
don't
things.
know what we're
Yeah,
doing yet. Hmm.
yeah. We don't know what we're doing yet, but we're working on it right now. It's percolating. Okay, guys. I
I'm
will see you
sure that this
guys.
is going through. Okay, talk to you
Yeah,
later.
I will see you. I will see you guys on Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific for almost a Dracula. See that? For Frankenstein. Forgot where I was. Okay? If you'd like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hey, no one showed us any love yet. Look at that. There's nothing. There's no love up there. You didn't like us
Oh,
today.
thumbs up, everybody.
Yeah, no one showed us any love today. What's up with that? I feel so dejected. Now I need another cocktail. Good grief. Okay.
Oh,
Anyway,
you had to
if you like,
ban somebody tonight.
I had to send somebody packing tonight. I wanted to say something about that. James, if you're out there, this could be a temporary ban for you, but you kept pressing the issue and whatnot after people had answered your questions and whatnot, and I just don't like that type of thing going through my chat room. That's all there is to it. You're more than welcome back, but I had to do it. So, and then Nancy just disappeared where all the Mario's go. There she goes. Zip. Oh, who showed us some love? Who showed us some love? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Marisa showed us some love. All right. Okay, guys. If you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show,
You're
share
gonna
it with 5 of your
have to
enemies. We
let
are
me
equal
leave.
opportunity here. Okay. We're just looking to get the word out about this great show that we have here. Okay. All right, guys. See you on Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific. Oh, and don't forget, Creature Features. And Michelle had emailed me earlier on this. Is starting up their Friday night shows again. So they just started showing their show tonight. So they'll have a show tonight and a show tomorrow. So head over to their website on YouTube and check out Creature Features. All right, guys. Bye.
Sure, give me a call when we're
Unpleasant.
done here. Give me a call. Sure, give me a call when we're done.